on why you're having all of these mediumship experience. I feel I'm picking up on other people's energies too. Okay, so first of all, when did your mediumship experience? Anybody else out there that has any questions about anything they want to know about psychic stuff, mediumship, how I do my work, what they can expect from a reading from me? It is then. Yeah, you caught me whenever it was real quiet in here, so I took a phone call. And of course, that's when people started showing up. Okay, so it's been going on since childhood. Okay, so other people's energy too much? That just empathic. I already know that. An empathic person is somebody who, one of the psychic senses is actually the people feel. It can come through emotionally or physically. And so if you're picking up on other people too much, my best suggestion I can give you, because I'm also empathic and this absolutely changed my life, but I actually have selenite stone. Well, I shouldn't say it's a stone, it's a mineral, but you can find it in a rock shop. Any metaphysical store that carries rocks will have selenite. You want to carry that. And the key to this is when you're empathic, you want to carry this close into your bra, whatever, but you want this where it really can touch your skin. And what it does is selenite actually draws away from you any energy that is not energy. So it draws that out of your body, and it also draws that out of your aura. And that makes it much easier to function as an empath and is filled with people that are continuously sending out energy, whether they realize it or not, and we're just kind of there. And I'm working with somebody who's really, really negative. I'll actually hold on to my selenite, what it actually looks like, and you can find it has clutter on it. I grab it. It helps me to stay in my own energy, and that way I can stay much more positive in what you have to focus on and distracted by. Blocks are definitely there. Something blockages, I believe. Okay, so let's see. Negative energy blocking your. We've covered that. And Vitamite. So you're looking for information on why you're having all these mediums. Here's the thing. People aren't tuned into their mediumship stuff. Most people aren't aware that they have mediumship. So when a spirit who's already crossed over, who desperately needs to get a message to somebody else, finds somebody who understands abilities, it's like, oh my gosh, you may as well paint a big old target on your back. They're going to want to come to you. They're going to want to get messages through. And if you're aware of them and sensing them, then that, it's much Joe Blow and doesn't pay any attention to anything. It's completely ineffective to do that. So first, crossed over because they need your help. That's the why. You understand? Luna. Oh, and she talks all about the details of these numbers. 11, I know, is definitely a new beginning. The 4 talks about being a healer, and there's a lot different meaning. And if you keep seeing one of them repeatedly, then that's it. Okay, so the first thing you have to do, you have to identify the block. I think the thing generally is identifying. We can see that we're having a problem and we're feeling kind of stuck somewhere in life, but actually getting to go, oh, that's what's blocking me up. That's the tricky part. So the first thing to do, as soon as I hear it, it just resonates so loud with me. Saying, bang, it's highlighting. So you can't handle each blockage the same way. Just like you can't handle each person the same way. So it just kind of depends what's going on. Sometimes blockages, if you do, okay, so we see that this is the blockage and kind of picking apart, okay, why has this been blocking you so much? And sort of looking at that. And as they become more aware of what the blockage is and what it's been doing to them, that automatically starts to do that and dissipate. The more they can stay aware as they work through the life, the less and less effective it is on them. So in other words, that blockage starts to deteriorate. Also, when you do that energy work, there are times when you do the energy work and you can completely just obliterate that blockage right off the bat. Generally, when you obliterate a blockage, you know what it is you're obliterating. Not always, But if you totally obliterate it, you generally know what it is you're obliterating. So you have to know ahead of time first, okay, this is what I'm actually working on for a blockage. Does that answer your question, Molly? You're quite welcome, Luna. Hey, White Mountain Dreaming. I love your name. I live right next to the Rocky Mountain. Anything that has automatically. In a new city through. Yeah, because it's always, we're talking about money. So you have to figure out what the blockage is in a session. That's something that I would lay out some cards and about, okay, well, what's going on? Why is this a problem? And then once we know the why, looking for, okay, what's the solution? Work our way through the blockage. So if you read, you do some kind of divination, or even if you just meditate, you don't have to use any kind of tools. If you meditate, you can ask Spirit, what is this blockage? Why am I feeling held back? Why am I feeling stuck here? And the next step is, how do I get rid of this blockage? Ask Spirit to help you. For her, I believe that because I know her personally, in her case, I've been called as she was actually dying. I've heard of that before, and people coming through even, you know, that. Well, the other thing that could be going on too, Luna, is you be doing spirit work in your dreams. I do have a friend that does cross people over in her dreams all the time. She remembers her dreams quite often. So a lot of times she knows what she. I'm one of those people, I've been told by type of work at night, I don't, but when I come back to my conscious self, I have no idea. And then other readers will say, oh, I saw you doing this, I saw you taking care of that, I saw you here, I saw you there. Because a couple of them, you know, they travel and they're very aware. When I'm sleeping, aware. It was someone who wasn't very nice to you. Did she have a message wishing she would have been nicer, Vitamite? You see the end game, but really the only important thing is the end game, because if you can stay focused on that, they're able to, because one of the things that I've noticed is um, when someone comes through to you in spirit while you're dreaming, that's like a very that dream. That's a spirit visitation. So I would say if you very vividly, I would say that you probably did some work on your wife's husband, or I mean your sister's husband. What do you do to get to rid myself of this? Okay, so I already gave you an idea about how to rid yourself of this. As far as the empathic thing, selenite, go get yourself some selenite. Now, the other, I don't want to do this type of spiritual work. It's too much for me, and I want to at least have a break from it. I wouldn't say that you never want to do it again, because you may change your mind. Say at least I want to break from this, because spirit is about respecting boundaries, from what I've seen. I get it about it being draining, especially if you haven't been doing this type of work. Like when I started to do this work professionally, I had to really build up to it to be able to do, you know, more than one, because it does, it saps your energy big time. Well, Luna, Elena, so what kind of advice are you looking for? Are you not happy about being able to do that? Not want to do that? Do you want to do more of that? What type of advice are you looking for, honey? Well, here's the thing, Vitamin. I'm seeing where you're saying that it's making you incredibly sad and you have work to do, creative projects that are. What you want to do is, like I said, selenite. Selenite, that's going to get rid of any foreign energy that's holding. Okay? And actually, I'm going to type that. I think I know how to spell it. If it's not this spelling, it will be something close to it. And then the other thing, set your boundaries. Spirit will respect your boundaries when you set your boundaries. If I was in your shoes and knew that that's where I was headed as far as life purpose or whatever, what I would do is I would ask sacred spirit and then be very open to whatever comes along as far as physical people who have things to, but you want to, be open to those types of people that spirit may put in your path. Be open to spirit messages that message send you direct work. Be very tuned into spirit because spirit is the one that can lead you through that successfully. And then I guess the other, always have your psychic self-defense in place. So do you know what psychic is, Luna? Are they dream and astral travel? Astral travel is one of those things that you can do without dreaming about. People who are aware when they come back, um, I think that's great, but I do think that even the people who aren't aware of what happened when they come back, they still learn things. They still have impressions that come in, at least on a spirit, so they're able to take that knowledge, especially if they're tapped in and tuned into intuition. They're still able to take that knowledge and let that self-defense. I want you to go to the very first Meet Amista video I did. It was live. Because towards the end of that video, I show somebody how to do some psychic self-defense. So if you can go back and watch maybe the last 10 minutes of that, I'm guessing is probably about when it started, then that will help you a lot. So in the past, Spirit really helped me to find great opportunities, so I don't, but now it's understand the messages that you give me here. And if these are not messages from you, meaning from the light, from the Creator God, then please block and start working your psychic self-defense, Vitamite. Because if psychic self-defense, if you're working your psychic self-defense correctly, nothing's going to be able to accept whatever's for your highest. They're asking you to help for their highest and best good. But in your psychic self-defense, right, nothing is going to come. But yeah, I would just make a It is a little bit of like took me through it the first time in probably about 10 minutes. And as I do it more and more, this almost instantaneous, less than a minute to get my psychic self-defense up to snuff. And I pretty much keep it all the time. So it's just a matter of learning how to do it and getting it down. And I just put Saturday, I think. So it still should be pretty easy to find. See, we have other people in the room. Everybody jump in. This is a very open format. We're just talking about whatever we want to talk about in here. Some people have questions about abilities, things that are going on with them. Some people have questions about how I work, found my abilities. We talk about as long as you feel like you've been helped or empowered when you walk away from this. Yeah, Archangel Michael is a good one for defense. A lot of people call on him. I also my main spirit guide, because I believe that we all have one with us from birth until death. Mine happens to be JD. Walking into a situation where I know that there's been some negative problems going on. Like I went in to clear a house, and so I had JD get together a whole crew for me and called on Archangel Michael and so that I was on top of my regular defense. How did I find my ability? Interesting. I was operating on my abilities for my whole life, but I never thought of myself, in part because when I was growing up, I was raised that if you go to see a psychic, much less if you are a psychic, if you go to see, you're going to go do not collect go, do not dollars, do not pay. There was stuff going on that I really 31. My significant other at the time passed away. And when he 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, by noon that day, I had been sitting in front of the computer like we had normally looked at and talked about. And I just framed this question, put it out loud, never expecting an answer back. And what happened really shocked me because I got this 4 sentence back and none of it was my thoughts. And so I was kind of freaking out. And that was sort of the beginning of me realizing what was going on. At first, I really didn't know if I was crazy or really was some kind of communication going on with the other side. I really honestly, for a long first 3 months or so, that I just didn't want to let go of him. And so I thought that picking up all these conversations in my head. The turning point for me came realizing that it wasn't just that, was from other spirits. Because I had gone to my grief counselor and she had told me that it's pretty normal to feel like somebody's around for a little while, maybe the first 3 months or so, until based on that I was crazy, but I was just crazy with grief and it was just temporary and it would be over at some point. So when I started hearing from another spirit, I was like, oh, that's not what my grief counselor was talking about. That's when I started seriously what else could be going on and was there really communication going on with the other side. I imagine that definitely. I know my dad was a in him through were pretty scary. I mean, he was fearing for his life. Is a realistic fear or not, I don't know, but I know perceived at the time it was. Ah, is that what you hear? 40 days, huh? It did allow me to open that part of myself up. And I got to tell you, I'm not sure when he actually made his full transition. At some point, he did make a full transition, but even though he's made his full transition, he still comes back and checks on me regularly. In fact, there's not that go by that he doesn't dim the light in my bedroom as I'm going to bed. He'll dim it, like he's pulling the light bulb. He just dims it and brings it back. And so I know he's saying goodnight to me. I work closely with Sacred Spirit, and thing is a lot of times you just can't pick spirit things. But if you have spirits that maybe have crossed, you have a message or whatever, technology is able to pick up those vibrations and so it may not be that you're just thinking you're hearing those things. It may be that you actually are. Yep, he's still looking out for me. You're not saying hi. That's something worth getting a reading on. If I was you, Annalisa, I would be done medium reading because I would want to know, and I would want to know what else they have to say. That's just me. The other thing, there was another thing. The other thing, Annalisa, if you're getting an impression of somebody giving you a message, that impression typically can be trusted. That's usually your own intuition telling you what's going on. Luna Lena, you probably need to get some selenite, honey. If you're thinking about this lady all the time, get some selenite because she's of you and getting some, you're receiving some of her energy. That's why you're feeling her energy so much on you, probably thinking of connected. So you want to get some selenite so you can use that energy away from you. And then also you want to look into breaking cords, cutting and see if you and start working on cutting cords with her. And sometimes you have to cut cords more than one time with a person. Okay, so there's one spirit who is a co-worker and wants me to write about. Okay, so I don't know what WTC is, Vida. Have agendas, and it's totally up to you. You can't let spirit tell you what to do. That's my chat. Yeah, the more you can work with spirit, you'll find that the more doors get open for you. Well, Annalise, very happy to do a reading for you. Kent, check out my website, amista.info, and make sure I'm the best reader for you. To do a reading for you, just because I love doing readings in general. I live for readings. I'm like an Iditarod dog. Iditarod dogs are born to run. I was maybe if you back on the DVR, Luna Ellen, hopefully you should be able to hear what was said then. Hey, Michelle. How good for somebody else, impressions I'm getting. Um, the thing about reading for myself, if there's a situation that I'm not feeling objective about, even though for anybody else I would instantaneously know the meanings of the card, a set of cards, and usually I'll put down like some good insight on a situation. So I'll be looking at my 5 cards and I'll be studying my 5 cards and I won't get anything out of it. The only thing that I'll come up with is, or maybe I'll even find a stranger who doesn't know anything about my situation and ask them to read for me. But even if I go, though, it's always somebody that some of my friends know and they know they're good. You got to be careful who you choose to read for you. You feel it's a responsibility now? If that's the way you're feeling right now, then um, you should always, I just think that you should always follow your feelings, as long as they're not feelings that are triggered and not rational at all. It's a responsibility, and it's like Carrie, and that you need to write about this, feel lighter once you've written about it and gotten it out there, then I would say go for it. You're quite welcome, quite welcome. So this is a lot of interacting with you guys. It's great to get to talk to some of the people who watch my videos and actually give and take here. This is wonderful because this is the type of stuff I live for, these types of just, and for I live for reading. I totally live for doing readings. It mean that that's a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean that you crazy things. I mean, I'm pretty much the girl next door, and I like people to see that, oh wow, she's my neighbor and she's psychic, you know. A lot of people kind of dress the part for the psychic and they put on all this costuming stuff, and it's like, you know, you don't have to look like a Romanian old world gypsy to give somebody a good professional reading. You can look like a So anyway, I really enjoy this. It gives people a more clear idea about the real person behind the psychic. Private readings for people. If you check out my website, I actually have a few that I offer. I used, but I had a lot of people. They needed something that was a little bit more in their budget. So for a little bit of a smaller budget, I came up with a 1-question reading or a 2-question reading. That's going to be actually look at your question, like you would email me your question. I look at the question and I see what I'm sensing, and I just record to you whatever it is that I situation to answer your question, and then I go ahead and to download in an email. And then, so that's my pre-recorded readings. That were my 1 and 2 question readings. And my other readings are live readings on Skype or Run, and those really I prefer those readings because we can interact, and if the answer to a question, then we can just look at that answer right away and take it all out of the ballpark at the same time. My favorite deck, you know, asking favorite deck is, is like asking a mama who her favorite is. I'm picking a favorite. I do what I do is keep 4 ducks on my table all the time. I have one that I consider my always on my daily blogs, and I have one on my videos. I started switching that up a little bit. I've got one that right now I'm learning. Whenever I get interested in a new deck, I make myself let go of a deck. I pass it on to somebody else. So I've always got 4, and 4 is just like a number for me. There's enough choice to be bringing through all different versions of messages, and it just keeps things shook up enough for me. I don't believe in just keeping decks to accumulate them because um, decks are full of energy, and that energy, these decks were made to be used. And so if I feel like I'm going to be using one deck less than the others, then that's pass on because I want them to go someplace where they will be used. I want them to be happy. They have to go to happy, good homes. Thank you, Luna Lena. You're from Chile? Well, welcome, Claude. Get distracted and put it down. That joins the deck in astrology. I don't so much, honestly. The reason that I do to know that each sign is being influenced by different energies at any given period. So rather than doing a week for everyone, which have a hard time being accurate, I think, I figured if I broke it down into signs, I would have a much better chance of having some accurate forecasts for people whenever they came and checked out my YouTubes. And I actually had as an experiment to see if that theory was correct or not, and it's turned out really well. Lucky for me. I joined very closely. I'm sure that there are ways to overlap them, but my specialty, I really just work with. I'm in a really bad job environment. I don't know when, but I need to get out because I need to move. I need to move badly where I live. Okay, so Gigi, that is a big complicated situation that you've got going on, and that's something that I could definitely. One of the things that I would probably say, what to look for you, and the second thing that is timing the reading. And if not, you can get one of my more affordable ones, like the 1 question or the 2 question price range that just about anybody could afford. So cutting turned off, but usually what I'm more stuff that maybe I need to be aware of. It's not necessarily stuff that needs to be passed because I accurate to just that needs to be passed when I'm in a situation too, like in public in a group like this. You don't want to be passing along personal details, and a lot of these are extremely personal. The things that we go through. So, how do you know what kinds of junk on the top shelf? Okay, so I missed a question here because it seemed more complicated. I want to go back to that. Can I talk more about? Okay, so cutting is going to be my last question because cutting cords would really be something that you would want to take a class on. It's not something that I could really give you information right here about. So if you wanted to yourself, I would definitely sign up for some kind of psychic class that would come. But basically, for cutting cords, the first thing that you want to do is identify the fact that, okay, is it or not? And then once you've identified, you just want to, and with good humor, and then to block it. But the thing about cutting cords is cords are really created by our feelings for each other. And there are instances somebody dislikes enough. You guys can create cords in those situations as well. So the first thing is just identify, okay, where is the cord? And then the next thing is to remove it. And cords can attach in different places. In love relationships, a cord with heart to heart chakra, and parent child They can attach heart to base chakra. So it's kind of complicated, and at the same time, it's not that hard. Once you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy. But it's not something that I can really teach. And then you have to know about cord cutting is you can cut a cord, but if you have feelings that come up about somebody again, maybe something triggers the feelings, maybe an old memory, as you're getting away from a relationship, say a romantic relationship that you want to move on from. That is part of my spiritual healing that I do is I cut cords. How to do it that you can find out there. What I do when somebody comes to me and they need some cords cut is I go ahead and I cut the cords for them, and then I also teach them how to buy those cords again back, because a lot of times those cords, if they come back, aren't going to be similar to the way they were there the first. And then I teach the person how to take care of that themselves so they can do their own self-maintenance, at least for their situation. Okay? So that's my that's talking about cutting cords. So that's the last question. Thank you everybody for coming in and hanging. I really appreciate it so much. Anybody who needs a fabulous week, happy ending to your Monday, and thank you so much. Peace out, everyone.